All right, we should be live.
Are we live, guys?
Yes, we are.
Okay, cool. Hi, guys. We're live in Studio 666 with the Matterator, whoever that is, and me, Jimmie, shirtless guy. How you guys doing? So we just got the new Raterator pedal together, and I really like it. Can we show it here? Yeah.
It looks the same, but
it looks the same,
totally
but it's totally different inside. Yeah. I love it. So we're gonna demonstrate it rather than just say how great it is. let's demonstrate some of the tones.
Yeah. While you're doing that, I just gonna do some sound checks.
Yeah.
Make
So
sure
you get really good tone on this pedal.
All right, let's try some show the bass notes. wasn't bad.
You can just do anything with this pedal. I mean, you can play the highest notes, lowest notes. It still sounds good. I used to do that a lot, but he wasn't that extreme because he didn't have the Raterator. He would go like this. He would go like a...
Whenever you see new stuff. Let's talk a little bit. There we go. I'm toggling between the mic and the guitar just to keep things clear.
Okay.
We're not. The guitar is not playing through the there. It's playing through the input device.
So they can only hear the amp.
They can only hear actually just the guitar, not even the amp.
Oh, okay.
The guitar is going
Straight to what they're
straight
hearing.
into
So
what
this is actually me playing with actually recording devices that actually are functional.
So now you know. Yeah, how you actually sound compared to a shitty Android phone.
Android phone that like I actually almost busted the SIM card because I put it in. I put a hole. You're supposed to use that little thing they give you, but I used a paper clip, and I almost broke the whole thing. That's how good this phone is being taken care of. But anyway, I love the Raterator.
Hey, Sir John Cool is in.
Oh, thanks, Sir John.
He's your number one fan.
I like you, Sir John Cool. You are Sir John Cool.
Yeah,
You're cool, dude.
Dude, you rock, man.
Thanks, man.
Unlike the other nerfs.
Well, they're maybe just like I said something the other day that I think is probably true. There is probably more than one person whose life is dedicated to hating me. That's an interesting
You
fact.
know, Pudge disappeared. I think he got arrested for what he accused you of, most likely. Now he's in jail. He's in the clink, probably.
Oh, wow. I got too far, huh?
So,
Yeah.
anyways, let's go over we should do is just go over the pedal real quick.
Yeah, let's go over the pedal.
And then what we'll do is go into recording. I'd like to at least record one of the songs. Get
Yeah,
the guitar
I would
tracks
too.
down.
I would too. I got. Etheric Trimmer sounds good. It's an instrumental, so don't worry about the voice. But I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
let's.
yeah.
So
I mean, I didn't want to bore everyone to tears with guitar technology.
Right.
But
right.
Rest assured, the guitar pedal went through some major revisions.
Yes.
And it's about ready to actually be released.
Right.
You know?
To actually be.
There's some small little details as far as the volume and distortion, the full throw, those
Right.
I'll adjust.
You want to try this? You want to try me playing with it so that you get a novice's opinion and way of looking at it? Can I just play with it or is that going to mess up the whole deal?
Yeah, well, I have a photo of our settings. It took a while to get there, you know.
Well, can I just mess with it and tinker with it and see what happens? Let's
just hold off on it because we've got a recording session.
Yeah, we got a recording session going on. Well, needless to say, I'll be tinkering with it on my own, figuring out the settings I like for it, and but I already know I love the pedal, but it's a matter of getting used to. If I do this, it sounds just like that. If I do that, it sounds like this.
Well, yeah, the real problem we had with recording is that all the off-the-shelf pedals, even the Fender Pugilist I was using,
which is a good pedal.
It's a good pedal. It's just they only have so much money to put into a pedal at a certain price point,
and they know people are only going to know or care so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the difference is most pedals build in like a 12 dB per octave, at most, EQing. We built in 24 dB.
Right.
So one of them I had printed recently, and so this is a printed board of the wall of ice.
Oh yeah, it is. It's coming on my camera. Yeah. That's the wall of ice.
So that's the wall of ice.
And there's 12 of them there, and he just punches one out and uses
I had about 150 of these printed, and they're actually going to be a separate pedal. One's just going to be a high pass pedal.
Yeah.
So people can use it for the rig if they want to take out mud throughout the whole rig.
They can have a specialized
They can just
use
have
pedal.
a wall of ice, boom, they can just lock out, and it'll lock out all the subsonic stuff.
Yeah.
And then the other thing
that means below the human hearing range.
The other thing is we have, so each pedal comes with a precision power supply, PSU we call it, right? Precision power supply with a buffer.
What?
So it keeps. The big thing about a pedal is you don't have a normal bias where the signal rides off of. You actually have to artificially create it because you only have 9 volts going in. You don't have plus and minus 9 volts.
So you want to make it plus 4.5, minus 4.5 instead of 0 to 9.
Yeah. We did is we put a Zener diode in it that caps the input voltage to 8.2 in case you get a huge influx of power. It caps it at 8.2, which is
which is significantly above 4.5, which is what it should be.
Yeah, and then the precision bias keeps everything at 4.1.
Okay.
And what that does is if you have a violent guitar signal coming into a pedal, you don't want what they call ground bounce, where your bias is reacting
and
to
your
the
ground jumps down to
energy.
0 instead of at 4.
Well, it'll just jump around. What it does, it muddies the signal, and when you muddy the signal with distortion ends up sounding not as clear.
Right.
Because it's wobbling, really fast wobble.
Right.
It's a string itself. So you think of the bias as almost like a string that the signal rides on. If that string is wavering,
it's like playing guitar with a string that's about to break.
Or whatever, yeah. So you already have a distortion level there. So you put a precision PSU in. Guess what? No distortion. So that's
distortion in a bad sense, not the sound of distortion, but distortion of what you're
makes
trying.
It clear. You know?
Right.
So what's the next thing? The next pedal that's coming out, we're going to do. It's called Malice Madrigal. Right.
which means bad, bad
I don't
sonata,
know if I can see
or
that.
bad opera.
It means Matterator is voices in a medieval choir creating a counterpoint.
Right.
Malice means cruelty.
So cruel
So
counterpoint.
it's cruel voices.
Okay.
It's going to have two distortions. It's going to have a tube distortion, which is soft clipping, and it's going to have a hard clip, which is what the rat is.
Right.
And it's going to have a blend knob, so you can blend between soft and hard.
Wow. That's cool.
They'll be phase aware.
That's why it's Malice
Yeah.
Matterator. You can have a bell. You can have a tube-like sound, or you can have a rough sound, right?
Yeah, and so the pedal will look like this. It'll be a little larger form factor. So this one's like the Raterator's like this, but the Malice one is going to be bigger, and it's basically going to have about 7 knobs around the top, and 1 knob down below. But all the boards that have been created are modular. So the Wall of Ice is modular. So there'll be a Wall of Ice going in here. The Dual Assassins are going in here. The Aurora Curtain, which is the custom high-pass filter, is a 24 dB Bessel response high-pass filter.
It's a thing in math, right?
Yeah, well, it's phase aware, so it doesn't create weird combing or like phase effects.
Yeah. So
that's really good for. So you have the twin T notch, you have the Wall of Ice high pass, and then you have the Aurora low pass.
Right.
That takes out, and it takes it out very gently, so that it takes out the harshness, but it keeps it musical.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You don't want anything really abrupt on the high end.
Right.
You want it kind of
jarring,
like a gentle Aurora.
Right, right, very good.
You know what I mean? Like a little lights of an Aurora.
Right.
Just kind of combing over and kind of settling upon.
I think
the
they call it
land.
the Lord of the Nights Aurora Borealis or something like that, right?
Yeah. So, so anyways, so that's good. But I do like the tone we're getting out of this, but it takes a while to dial it in because you have such valleys. We created 24 dB valley, 24 dB, and then you have basically an infinite notch, 2 notches, one at 80 and one at 350, and that's your mid scoop. And those can go infinite. So you can create these valleys where you literally have like bass and treble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, there's no mid-range at all.
Yeah.
Mid-range is 0. Right.
It's really easy to make things sound like shit.
Yeah.
Most pedals...
It's like money. It's really easy to lose it and hard to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most pedals, they end up, they give you just like, oh, well, here's your... We're going to set the low end for you. We're going to set the high end.
They make decisions for you.
Yeah.
So
and we'll give you one tone knob.
Which also takes away your options.
Yeah.
To make it sound like you, and make it sound like you want.
Now the downside is if you don't know what you're doing, like you can make things.
You can't sound bad because they don't let you.
It sounds like shit. It
Right.
can sound like shit because
Right.
the way I've designed the pedal is this will let everything from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. If you unadjust everything, it will let all those frequencies through.
Yeah.
Well, that can be bad for guitar. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it can really muddy
what
things
it's like
up.
is like having your own producer pedal. Your pedal is a producer. Yeah. That's a very, 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 very cool.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's enough of the pedal.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to do?
Let me demonstrate the pedal on myself. Let me fiddle with some of the knobs for everybody, and just not for very long. And let me do this. Let me look at it and remember what where the patterns were.
So that's bass.
Yeah.
This is mids. That's treble. Volume.
And then
distortion.
All right. So
I wouldn't mess so much with the volume. Just you can do the distortion. I kind of know where they're at, so you don't have to worry too much.
Yeah. Volume's at about 2 o'clock, 2:30. Tones at about 12:15. Distortion's at about 2 o'clock. Let me just play with it and see what I think. I'm gonna let me do this. Wait, I almost unplugged it, dude. Let me.
Watch out! It only goes so far over here.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab this amp to set. I almost knocked that guitar over, guys, but I didn't. I'm gonna set it in front of me on this amp just as a holder, and let me just demonstrate it the best I can. So, Bass knob. Okay, so here's the bass knob.
Go ahead.
Okay. Bass knob up a little bit. Volume. Here's the treble knob. Volume. I'm going to turn up. I can finally hear how this sounds. It reached my brain again. I can hear this. Sounds very good. much chance to mess it up. I'm playing with it a lot. Like I said, let's turn the distortion down.
Streams, like turn the bass all the way up, right
Yeah,
here,
just
all
try
the way
really
up.
cranking it.
Hang it.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
That bass
I've
makes
never
it
had
fat.
I've never had bass that clear on any instrument that I've heard. Because I can play as I can hear good enough to play faster and not make it sound like junk. It's not a technical limitation; it's a limitation of being able to hear the instrument.
So that's one thing we talk about when I talked to you earlier about capacitive reactance.
Yes.
So you're hearing that because when you put different size capacitors in the feedback of the distortion, they react differently to even depressing the waveforms that go through it. In a circuit, in a feedback circuit, it basically reacts to the amount of power you're putting into. That's why playing at different sound levels is so important, because the circuits react differently depending on how hard you strike things.
Yeah.
If you strike things the same all the time.
We want to play a little differently, like strike it easier.
Well, what I'd like you to do is try some some mid power chords, like an A shape, going from all the way down to here, and let it howl. let's do, okay, these be mids excuse me, treble all the way down. And what I'm going to do is I'll turn it up as you're playing it.
All right.
So the treble, the Aurora curtain
We'll go
right
up.
now is all the way down.
And then
Okay.
turn it up as I play.
So you'll hear it's muted, but it's not. I mean, the highs are muted, but they're not muted that bad. What
Right.
happens? You mute the highs, the mids come out a little more.
Okay. So do
It kind
that.
of tampers them down. So they're all the way down right now.
Turn it up
You
as
go
I
ahead and
play.
play, and I'll start adjusting.
Okay.
up.
Yeah.
You can hear where I let too much through, and it
Yeah.
starts sounding like garbage. I actually
Yeah.
found if you do it midway, check it out, a little below midway. That's actually take the highs and you the tendency is to want to bring highs up higher, right? But you don't realize that when you do that, the mids suffer a little bit.
Right.
You really get that tonal quality when you bring
The
you
mids
really
back into it.
the highs. So I've cut this. If you turn that treble knob all the way to the right,
It'll sound like crap.
well, here's the thing: is I designed it to where
It'll just cut out and won't.
well, it'll let all frequencies through up to 21.5 kilohertz, which is beyond the audible range.
Right.
So it's just going to let everything through. The problem with that is you have a lot of spiky artifacts that not only can kind of hurt your ear,
Right.
but it starts ringing, and it starts just like the low end can muddy the mix, the high end can spike the mix. It can start, so what happens is the mids start to suffer a little bit. And that's also why you have a mid scoop. The mid, if you turn it all the way up, it starts to sound really, it sounds crunchy, but at the cost of giving, like, certain frequencies will have spikes to it. And that
Right.
doesn't sound good to the ear.
Right.
You want to try it without compression for a while?
Where's the compression control?
Right here, up on top.
Oh,
You just flip the button over to the right.
the right is no compression, the left is compression.
Yeah.
So that's no.
The left.
Yeah, it does make a difference.
Go ahead, play it.
Okay, that's no compression then, right?
No compression, go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, so that's no compression. There.
Right.
Those strings, just to see what the compression. Go ahead.
really great.
You can
And
actually,
it sounds like music, doesn't it?
yeah, you can play anything you want on the guitar, and it'll sound like it should, like you hear it in your head, you know. Like I could never do the bass lick. This lick here. Never been able to get that lick to sound right. It just sounds like
What
a
I
bunch of
like
junk.
is how, like, if I turn all the bass up and just
Yeah.
let a low note ring.
Now I'd like to do something different. I want to play my finger style with more of a softer sound now. I've been shredding out and everything. Let me try something different.
You want me to try it without distortion?
No, just play it by ear.
All right. Good.
Yeah, just for my mom.
Well, why don't we call it quits?
I
gotta
love you
take
guys.
off.
Peace, love, and rock and roll. I love the Raterator. Thanks for making it, Matterator.
Yeah. See you, dudes.
Love you guys. Peace, love, and rock.